In this episode, we look at failure from 3 new perspectives. Get excited because this is Tiny Leaps, Big Change. Welcome to another episode of Tiny Leaps, Big Changes, where I share simple strategies you can use to get more out of your life. My name is Greg Clunis, and in this episode, we are looking at the topic of failure. This is something we have revisited over and over again on this show, and the reason for that is because it is dramatically important. Failure is such a major part of our growth, and so many people hold themselves back because of that failure. They hold themselves back because of failures that have happened in the past, things that they're still sort of dwelling on and holding on to, or the fear of failures to come, failures that have not happened yet, but they imagine are possible, or things that they've seen others fail at, or just the fear of what society tells them failure will look like. So this is a dramatically important topic, and I'm super excited to be jumping back into it, with the hopes being that you'll walk away feeling like, you know what, failure is not that bad. I'm not going to let it hold me back anymore. So make sure you stick around for that. Before we jump into it, though, let's look at today's sponsor. How would you feel if you saved an extra $1,500 this year without lifting a finger? That's exactly what Empower can help you do. It's an awesome mobile app that makes saving and managing your money the easiest thing that you'll do all day. For starters, Empower has an automated savings feature. You simply tell the app your weekly savings target, and every day, Empower studies your income and spending and automatically knows when to move the right amount of money into your savings account, where you're less likely to spend it. It's called autosave. Just set it and forget it. If you want to save $1,500 more this year, you've got to check out the Empower app. Download Empower, that's EMPOWER, in the App Store or Play Store. You can get $5 for free, $5 when you use the offer code TINYLEAPS. Head over to empower.me/tinyleaps and use the offer code TINYLEAPS. Okay, so the first new perspective, something that I think you should try to look at failure from the lens of, this is something that has helped me a lot in the last few months, is that failure is a gift to your future self. Now, what do I mean by this? In any process of growth, in any goal that you might have, in anything that could end in success for you, failure is a part of it, right? You have to go through the failures in order to figure out what not to do, in order to learn, in order to get that pain and move past it, in order to fuel yourself to move forward. Failure is a major part of it. Now, anytime you fail today, that is one less time that you'll have to fail in the future. It's that simple. Now, if failure is painful, if failure is something that can hurt, can damage you in a lot of ways, can hold you back, then getting those failures out of the way now, pushing through those failures right now when you are at the highest point of your motivation, when you are raring to go, you've decided this is a thing you're going to do, and you're pushing for it every single day, and then bam, you hit a failure. Bam, another failure. Bam, another failure. Your motivation is still right there. You just got into it. It's better to have those failures now than to deal with it when you're in the middle, later on, where the motivation of starting isn't there, but the motivation of the finish line isn't there either. And all you've got is your own mind to push through. So failing every single time you fail is a gift to that future version of yourself to say, hey, you know what? You don't have to go through this. I got it. I'll deal with this one. You maybe take the next one, or maybe you get to avoid failure altogether, but I'm going to deal with this one. That's what failure is. It is a gift. It is you showing self-love for the future version of yourself. It is stopping you from having to go through that failure later on in life. How many times have you said, oh, I wish I had started this sooner. I wish I had gotten started earlier. It sucks, right? Because now you have to navigate the failures still. If you had done it in the past, you could have navigated them then and been now in a place of success, in a place of knowing what to do. But you didn't do it back then. So do it now so that the future version of you doesn't have to keep going through those same failures. That's the first perspective that I really want to share on this topic. And it's something that, like I said, has helped me dramatically. Failure is a major part of my day-to-day life. There's so many things that I try and fail at. There's so many things that I put out into the world that completely flop. There's so many things that just have not worked. And every now and then, some idea actually works. Some idea is like becomes a big part of things. But in order to get those, I have to go through all the failures. And if I don't go through the failures now, I'm going to have to go through them in the future. Thinking about it as a gift allows me to deal with it in the moment and think, you know what? I don't have to deal with this failure ever again. I don't have to push through this ever again in the future because I'm getting it done now. Now, the second perspective on failure is something that we've talked about before. Failure is a requirement to success. And I just sort of hinted at it in the last point as well. You cannot be successful without ever failing. If like literally, by definition, you cannot be successful without failing. That's what success is. Success is the absence of failure. Success is having not failed. How do you not fail if you've never failed? Doing it the first time, in my opinion, quite frankly, is not success. That's luck. Success is when you failed and then you've overcome that and pushed past it to find the not failure, the absence of failure, the success. Failure is a requirement to success. It has to be there. It has to be a part of your life. It has to be something that you're willing to deal with. And quite frankly, the faster you do it, the more you do it, the more times you fail, the faster you get that failure out of the way, and the more in depth you're willing to go to understand why you failed. That's how you move forward. That's how you become better. That's where growth happens. It's that simple. Failure is a requirement to success. So instead of being afraid of failure, take it as a requirement. Take it as something that you have to go through, something you have to push past in order to get to the next level, in order to grow and change and become better. Failure is one of those things. It needs to be there in your life. So hiding from it, being afraid of it, none of that makes any sense. Holding on to it doesn't make any sense. You hold on to lessons. You don't hold on to the fact that you failed. You hold on to the lessons learned from that failure, and then you move forward. You bring back in that optimism and you say, you know what? I dealt with that failure. I'm not going to deal with that again. So I'm going to win this time. I'm going to succeed this time. And then the final new perspective on failure is that failure is where the actual growth happens. It's not in the success. You succeeding at something is valuable. Don't get me wrong. You get all the stuff that comes with that success, but you don't get the experience. You don't get the understanding of why you succeeded. You don't get the skill set to recreate that success. After all, that success didn't come purely based on your own efforts. It came from a lot of factors that were outside of your control that led to that success with none of the failure in between. If you have the failures, then you at least know what factors stopped you from succeeding, and you can avoid those in the future. Now you've got a tool set so that if everything crashes and burns, the next time you're good to go. The next time you're able to move forward and keep going. You're able to recreate that success because you know how you made it in the first place. You know what worked and what didn't work. You understand the full spectrum of what created that success. The failures along the way are where the growth actually happens. If your goal is to grow and be better and change, then failing, you literally have to. Like, you have to fail. You have to fail. Fail is not negotiable. Failing is a non-negotiable. I hate when people say, like, oh, failure is not an option. Yes, it is. In fact, it's the most likely thing that's going to happen. Like, that is the most likely scenario, is that you will fail. Saying it's not an option is just bad advice. Maybe that works, I don't know, like the military or like some other incredibly, like spacesuits, right? Like, you're going up, you can't have that fail. But most of us don't live our lives in that scenario. Most of us aren't in such high-pressure situations that we spend weeks and months and years fine-tuning every single detail to make sure that failure never actually happens in action. Because even in those scenarios, right? Even in those extremely high-pressure situations where you've got Neil Armstrong walking across the moon and, God forbid, there's a tiny little hole in his spacesuit. Guess what happens? He's dead. That's failure not being an option. But guess what they had to do in order to be able to make that happen? They failed multiple times, over and over and over again, both in safe situations and in very dangerous situations. And they learned from it every single time so that in the future, they didn't fail. But even those people going around saying, oh, failure is not an option. When you reject failure, then you'll be successful. Like all of those little guru people. I'm not going to name names, but all of those guru people that yell at you in their Netflix documentaries. When they go around saying, oh, failure is not an option, guess what? They're lying to you because they failed too. That's how they got there. And you're going to fail. That's how you'll get there. Wherever there is for you. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope this was valuable to someone out there. If you are afraid of failure, if you're afraid of the potential for failure, or if you're afraid of the idea of failure, or if you are holding on to past failures, any of those options could be holding you back from whatever it is that you are trying to do. You've got to let it go. Hopefully one of these perspectives will help you do that. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you. Listen, if you're not on the YouTube yet, youtube.com/Greg Clunis. I'd love to have you there. We're aiming for 2,000 subscribers. We're currently at about 1,300. So I'd love to have your support on that platform. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments because then we'll be able to talk to each other and share ideas. With that said, thank you so much for listening or watching. And remember that all big changes come from the tiny leaps you take every day.